Hello everybody, welcome to another Magic Madhouse official draft. I realise I'm doing two videos in a row. I was going to do an article this week, but I'm going to spend a fair amount of the next couple of weeks on trains and in GP Manchester, which is not very conducive to recording on Magic Online, but pretty good for writing when you're sitting on a train with nothing to do for 3 hours. Well, this is a good one, isn't it? We've got Diagraph Colossus. I don't think this card is amazing. It's not really as exciting as this Call the Bloodline, which is a fantastic build around engine card, fun with Indulgent Aristocrat, that's his name. No. And there's a Murderous Compulsion. So basically all the cards I might want to take out of this pack are black, which is a little unfortunate. I think I'm going to lean towards Call the Bloodline. I think it's more powerful than the other two, and there's nothing really else in here that leaps out against me. Hopefully no one will slam the Murderous Compulsion and then end up cutting us off in pack 2 if we end up in that colour. Or not. What have we got here? Tenacity is not really an early pick, but it's pretty strong. Crow is a good role player, and the only black card, but it's not... I'm not forcing black for a Call the Bloodline. Dauntless Cathar. I really like this card. She's very solid. I don't know if she's as solid as the Drownyard Explorers. We saw last week just how much fun blue-green clues can be, so I will not be unhappy to end up in that deck again. This is okay. Decent role player, especially in Delirium. Same with this in clues. Watcher is good. Fury is good. Hunter is solid. I think this pick basically comes down to which one do I prefer. This goes better with my first pick, but I wonder if it or Drownyard Explorers is actually the stronger card. I'm going to take the Drownyard Explorers because clues are fun. Ooh. We've got a Mad Prophet. We've got some janky removal. I really like this card. I jammed it in my cube just to see if it would do anything. And the first time I saw it in action, it was copying Treasure Cruise. So the 2 blue, draw 6 cards. Pretty good. Stitchwing Scarab I quite like. But it's not... I don't know how much of a high pick this one is. It might wheel. But it is a decent body and it's in a tempo deck. It's not very hard to kill, but they have to have a card to kill it. They have to have a removal spell or a flying blocker. No. Probably not picking this guy this early when there's a Mad Prophet. This guy's fine, but not exciting. Just the Wind is fine. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here I want to take over Mad Prophet. I really like Mad Prophet. As well as being a Madness enabler, the filtering is very valuable. Just being able to discard excess lands later on. Three picks, 3 colours. We in on this. What have we got here? Well, we've got 2 Madness Enablers already, which makes this guy quite a bit better. Blood Mad Vampire runs away with games very hard anyway. It's quite a solid card. Reaper is really scary. It's hard to know where to pick this card. One of my friends was talking about picking it over almost anything just because of how bomby it is, and it can really, this can swing for 14 without too much effort. Nephalia Moondrakes. The fact that I'm having to read this should speak to how much play it sees. I think I'm going to take the Blood Mad Vampire. There's not much. Maybe the Wolf. Nah. Let's take this Vampire. It's quite nice with the 2 Madness Enablers we already have. Oh, speaking of madness. Okay, I think a 5th pick Ravenous Bloodseeker is a reasonable signal. Especially as there's not much else in this pack that really leaps out. This guy is very good with Call the Bloodline. But it's a common, we might get one later. Sanguinary Mage is fine. But there's a bunch of generic 2-drops here. This'll make someone happy if they're in that sort of deck, but yeah, I think Ravenous Bloodseeker is just miles better than the rest of these cards, especially as it looks like we're already traveling in that direction, which is fantastic news. Get in there. Oh, this is pretty exciting. I don't think I've gotten to draft red-black madness before. So at the moment we're probably not... I said red-black. We haven't seen very much black. We're just in red. Speaking of being in red, this is great. Is that late? I'm not sure. I don't think so. No one wants this. This is mediocre. That might wheel, in theory. But let's see. I'm not picking this over the other options. Probably the same with Ember Wolf. I think this is between the Fiend and the Tormenting Voice. We only have one card with Madness so far, but hopefully we'll be able to get more later. There's so little black that we might be able to see some coming back in pack 2. And there's plenty of Madness in blue as well. Fiend is okay, but I think it's probably replaceable. So let's take the Voice. Well, there's another Drowned Explorers. There's a Voldaren Duelist if we want to keep on red. This card actually has Madness, which makes it more valuable than it would otherwise be. This is awkward. So this is kind of another one of those decision points where you have to pick between, this is the more aggressive direction, this is the more sort of value-y controlling direction if we pick one of these. I mean, at the moment we have a Blood Mad Vampire, so I mean Blood Mad Vampire into this is brutal. So I'm probably going to lead towards the Duelist. If blue is properly open, we might be able to... Blue is properly open, speaking of which. That does feel like a very late Stitch Mangler. That's not late, I guess. Waltz is probably not a very high pick. No, this Mangler is great. We could have a very nice... Sorry, there's a plane going past outside. I don't know if you can hear that. We might have a very nice blue-green tempo deck here. This is our first pack back. There was nothing in it to start with, so it's not surprising that there's not much coming around. Are we likely to end up in a different colour later on? Like, I don't really want to play either of these cards. So is it worth taking something else just in case we end up switching colours? And if so, what? Do we hate draft this Thornhide Wolves? Is that the point we're at? Or do I just take this in case I need a playable? Let's take the Wolves. If we end up in green, Wolves is great. Ooh, things. That's not a huge surprise. Okay, so Press for answers. Very good with Blood Mad Vampire and other tempo cards. Good if we end up with a bit of clue synergy, although I think that's unlikely at this point. Let me just zoom in on these actually, sorry. That's better. Probably not playing this. And there's Senseless Rage, which is very good with our Madness cards. Let's take the Press. I like the fact that it's not really card advantage, but it cantrips. I don't think we're playing this either way. There's a small chance we do end up back in black, in which case I'd probably rather have the Farbug Revenant than the Arms, even though I'm not really wanting either. Yeah, that's a good sideboard piece. This might actually be useful for us. It's quite good with Ravenous Bloodseeker. And even Mad... Well, actually, no, it's pretty useless with Mad Prophet, isn't it? I guess I'd rather it over a Counterspell, though, because it looks like our deck's going to be sort of relatively proactive. Sure. Solid 2-drop. Deck like this probably wants 2-drops. So, at the moment, it looks like we're probably going to be in an aggressive blue-red sort of strategy, which means we're probably not playing the Stronyard Explorers, but I'll leave it in there for now. Right, what have we got? So, in our existing colours, there's a Manic Scribe, which is probably more dirtly than we're looking for. There's this card, which has Madness. There's the now somewhat infamous Pyrehound, which is quite good in spell-heavy or tempo-y strategies. There's another Tormenting Voice, which I don't think we need at this point. This guy is quite slow. These are all a bit awkward. There's also Nahith Chaplain, which I don't think we're picking. I didn't see very much white, I think, that leapt out at me. This is colourless, but I don't think we want it. Nothing else that really jumps out. This is just Tormenting Voice, more or less. Let's see. So far we have a grand total of 2 things that can trigger Pyrehound, but we can end up with more. This might just be really good with our Madness cards, so I might just take this. Hopefully, I would like to end up in the sort of deck that can play Pyrehound and get good value out of it, though. Wow, okay. So there's not much for us in this pack. There's a dual shot, but that's not very exciting. But there is a Kindly Stranger. I don't know if we'll really be able to activate this. We do have enough ways to discard things that we're not completely dead to turning it on, but it is in a different color effectively at this point. Like, I don't know which color we'd cut for it at this point in the draft. I mean, the next thing to pick is either Dual Shot or Murderer's Axe, though, and they're just not very exciting. So maybe I'm taking this in case there ends up being loads of black. Or worst comes to worst, we end up in 3 colors, but I'm really hoping that isn't the case. I mean, Corpse Troll is okay, but it's very dirtly. Yeah, let's take a Stranger. Take a Stranger and hope. There's some Mana Fixing, a Scrutiny, a Throttle. So this is the second Manic Scribe, is worth noting. I mean, I don't think we're in a position to transition into a controlling deck yet. I mean, very few of these cards fit well in a controlling deck. This is quite good for tempo. And this is quite good for helping us cast our spells. I don't know if we need the Mana Fixing just yet. It doesn't really hurt, I guess. Let's punt the Stranger to the sideboard at this point. There's also the fact that this comes in tapped, so it's quite awkward as a top deck if we're looking for a 3rd or 4th land and we hit this. That's quite bad for tempo. This lets us make some decent attacks, but let's take this. Rise from the Tides. That's an interesting build on. Fairly likely to wheel, I guess. Pyrehound Rise from the Tides in this pack. I think I am very tempted, but I think I'm going to take this Just the Wind, and hopefully we'll wheel this and maybe have enough spells by then or something that we can try and make it work. But Just the Wind is going to be pretty good in this deck. Daring Sleuth. That's not terrible. Pieces. Well, the Rise from the Tides deck is active. There's a Reaper, wow. Yeah, I think I'm just taking this. I mean, we don't have very much Investigate yet. I think we have 1 card or 2 if we end up playing the Drownyard Explorers, but it's pretty solid. It's got prowess and everything. I'm not monstrously convinced by this deck so far, but I don't really see anything that could push me into a different one. There's a Fiend. Fiend's not bad. There's another Just the Wind, another Press for Answers, which is especially good that we've just picked up a Daring Sleuth. I think with Mad Prophet and Tormenting Voice in the deck, the Just the Wind is probably more valuable. Although I do like that this doesn't lead to card disadvantage. It is a bit slow, but it's quite good for that. There's also the possibility of just taking more creatures, but given that there's a Pyrehound and a Rise from the Tides in the pack, which I would not mind wheeling, I'm kind of leaning towards one of these. Let's see, so we've seen, I think, given that, maybe this is better because it lets us keep up more of a flow of cards. This is only that good with without Madness. With Madness, sorry. Another Mangler. Get in. Yeah, there's nothing else here for us. Well, that one was easy. Alright, so Amber Eye Wolf and Senseless Rage. And a Stormrider Spirit, I guess. So currently we have 3 2-drop creatures. This isn't really a 2-drop. It's got a good mana sink. We have a few ways of getting it through. We actually have quite a lot of doesn't untap sort of effects. In fact, if we can get another Blood Mad Vampire, I would be very excited. I mean, maybe the Spirit is the better pick just because it's a bit more solid. Doesn't look like our deck is that fast. Probably want Tormenting Voice over Lamplighter of Selhoff. Pyrehound. Was Pyrehound in this pack? No, I don't think so. It was possibly the next one. Dual Shot. Well, both of the cards that Aircodes in our colours came round. This card doesn't seem any good in an aggressive strategy, does it? I mean, if we do end up going more control... No, I think I'll take this Dual Shot. Dual Shot's kind of good, and it probably is main deckable. In fact, I haven't tried main decking it before. I'd like to. None of this is especially useful. We are not playing a Vessel. Do we just hit draft somebody's Thornhide Wolves again? Why do we have 2 Thornhide Wolves on the board? I guess if we end up with, like, the mana fixing, we could bring them in. As sideboard tech? I'm not sure. If we really need creatures, if the deck doesn't come together. I think we've gone past the Pyrehound by now, but possibly not the Rise. There it is! Let's see if we can do this. We've only got... Alright then. Let's see if we can make this work. So right now we have... Do we have any non-creature, non-land cards? I don't think so. So we've got 9 spells, which is obviously not good enough. Even if 2 of them are Tormenting Voice, which gives our deck a reasonable velocity. I mean, we've got 9 spells including Pieces of the Puzzle and Rise itself. And this card is only good if you have a whole bunch of spells. So, let's see what pack 3 brings us, I guess. The dream is obviously open Thing in the Ice and then just pick a spell for however many turns. But I imagine at the moment we're not playing these. And we're just trying to play slightly more honest limited. Well, I say honest limited. Playing this into this is not very honest. Aberrant Researcher, that's very strong. That is... Right now it's got about a 1 in 4 to flip, which is not dreadful on a Cloud Manta, which our deck kind of wants already. Versus Pore Over the Pages. Oh, that's very awkward. So obviously if we knew we were going to be in Rise of the Tides, I would slam this. And if I knew I was going to be in a Tempo deck, I would slam this. But I don't know either. Let's see. We've already got a few 4-drops. Although, not playing this would be nice. Excuse me. This is quite good for reloading, and it's good with our couple of Madness cards, although there aren't very many of them. It would be sweet to be in the spells deck, but... Yeah, let's take this, see what happens. Reckless Scholar. Boom. There's a nice 5-drop. Don't need this. It's a nice 2-drop, but Reckless Scholar is awesome. So we now have Scholar and Prophet. We just need some more cards with Madness. This deck has been pulled in a lot of different directions. I wonder if that's normal for drafting blue-red. I haven't done this before. Like, at the Pro Tour there were so many people who just had, you know, double Thing in the Ice and however many copies of Jace's Scrutiny and Press for Answers. And you're just sitting there like, do these people actually... Is this constructed? You know, did they draft these? How did this happen? So I wonder what the... I wonder if this is closer to the normal experience of drafting or trying to draft this strategy. I don't know how open our colours have been. Like, we've been able to make good late picks, but we haven't had that many different cards to choose from. That's a fleeting memories. I don't know if we're going in that direction. We've got... the last thing we need is more potential strategies for the deck to be in. There's an Epitaph Golem, which is a decent pick over the rest of this Croft. I don't think we have enough. Let's see. Well, we've got a Scholar, we've got a Prophet, 2 Tormenting Voice, pour over the pages. This might actually be good. I mean, I don't know if is it better than Epitaph Golem. Both of them are pretty fringe. I guess if we are playing this for free, it can bash in for a ton of damage. And because you can play it at instant speed with a small amount of setup, it's a good trick as well. It's a combat trick that then sticks around, and those tend to be good. Maybe this is actually better than what? Yeah, sure. Let's pick it. Well, so right now we only have 11 creatures. We don't need more of these. Can we splash for this? No, we can't splash for this. I would like the Uninvited Geist, because this is another thing, just like the Blood Mad Vampire, if it gets through once, it's a huge deal. This helps them get through. It's very awkward that these are both in the same pack, because I would happily play both. I think, at this point, I think we need to up the creature count, because we're probably not going to be doing this. Like, I mean, I don't know how many copies of Tormenting Voice you want in a Rise from the Tides deck, but I think there's only so many you can play. I think I'm going to take the creature. Stensia Masquerade doesn't do anything without creatures, and we need a few more of them to begin with. There's also this Howlpack Wolf, or this Homunculus as creatures, and there's a decent removal spell in Inner Struggle. I do love me some removal. We have enough tempo plays that we might not need a hard removal spell, but at the same time we don't have very many ways of breaking through if the board is that stalled out. I guess we have this flyer and some evasion, but that's not a lot. So I'm kind of tempted to take the Homunculus for curve. It means we have 4 2-drop creatures. We've already got quite a few 3-drop creatures, but the wolf is a lot better. 32 Homunculus will do. Insolent Neonate. That's not dreadful here. Yeah, I quite like this actually. It's a good target for Senseless Rage because there's Menace. And it's probably better than Magmatic Chasm or Silent Observer. Or this? Yeah, this is all sorts of card disadvantage. I guess if you discard a Madness card to it. What's the maths on there? You lose the Ghostly Wing speed, play the man. Yeah, if you discard a Madness card to it, it's and then maybe you've blown out their removal spell. But I think I'm going to take this Neonate. It synergizes better with what we're doing. There's another Voldaren Duelist, another Nagging Thoughts, a Lamplighter or a Watcher. Much as I want to do sweet things with this and our various Madness Enablers, of which we have quite a few. I think we have more Madness Enablers than actual cards with Madness at this point, which is slightly sad. I think rather than just getting more value and doing nothing, I think I'd rather win the game, so let's take another Duelist. Boom! Oh, so much sweetness, but boom! It's exactly what we were looking for. I guess at this point I can take a Lamplighter. I don't know if we'll play it, but it's an option. It's big. So at this point, I think these get punted. Possibly this does. This does. That's 24 cards. I think I'd rather have a wolf than one of these. This thing is quite a good mono sync, which is nice because our deck's curve has turned out to be reasonably low. With all the draw, we might be able to get away with playing 16 lands, although with all the draw, we can get away with playing a decent number of lands, because we can just discard them. And it will be nice to be able to maybe not have to rely on this as a tap land one time, or not get punished by this being a tap land, I mean, or be able to reliably curve up to these. This wield? Alright. I would have thought by now that most people knew how Epitaph Golem was how you do all of the sweet things in this format. I don't want to play against this. I've been ruined by this before, and it's depressing. Well, if we need to sideboard into black, for whatever reason, we have a strategy. Okay. That was a bit odd. Let's, oops. Alright. So we're on 25 non-land cards at this point in time. There's also a couple of things we might feasibly consider playing up here. But it's relatively unlikely. So we do at least have a decent number of creatures. That's definitely something I was worried about. What have we got as far as madness enablers and madness cards? Let's just do a count of that. So we've got discard, 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 discard. So that's 7, I think that was. And then for cards with madness, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that it? Yes. Oh no, nagging thoughts, 5. Okay, so at that point I think we start cutting the slightly worse madness enablers. I don't know if that means we cut the insolent neonate. Probably. 1/1 menace. This guy can peg in for damage. I've seen it do work, but it's not going to do that much work. So I think we can shave him. And then we could probably also shave a Tormenting Voice. I don't dislike the card. Actually, I've been playing it in Modern and it's great. But it spends mana without affecting the board, which makes me a bit sad. I mean, maybe we just cut this instead. Although, this is pretty similar, but it gives you more choice over what you're discarding. Conveniently, all of our madness cards, madness for 2 or less mana, so if we hit 1 off of 4 over the pages, we can reliably cast it, which is pretty sweet. So this is like essentially more consistent, and it's an extra card, but this can be played early. But we don't generally want to be playing these early if we can help it, so let's cut one. That does bring us to 23. Is there anything we'd rather run? Like, I mean, do we want to cut this instead of Neonate, or instead of Tormenting Voice, or even instead of Drownyard Explorers? I mean, the card is Dudley, but it cantrips, given a bit of time. Our deck isn't that fast, but Drownyard Explorers is really not fast, so probably not in the main. I think we've got enough creatures. How many targets does this have? It's pretty good, right? especially at instant speed. And you only have to kill one thing with it. You don't have to cast it when there are 2 targets. Yeah, let's run with dual shot. It does things like, we saw an Obsessive Skinner in the draft, it kills that. You know, even if they trigger target itself, you can dual shot in response. We saw 2 Gibbering Fiends, it kills them. You know, deals with all sorts of stuff if we have to. Last thing I guess is to double check that we don't want to play black. So we've got a call, a Kindly Stranger, which is maybe pretty hard to enable. A Trisket Egophobia, which is funny. I mean, we don't have any life gain or life drain / burn to fiddle with the maths. And I don't think our pool is quite aggressive enough to just use it as Sulfuric Vortex. Although it might be. Maybe there are matchups where we want to board it in somehow. Just board in a couple swamps and splash for it. Certainly worth keeping in mind. Same with this. We might want to board this in, you know, instead of something expensive, maybe. Although boarding in a splash instead of an expensive card is like, well, you can't really expect to have your splash on turn 2, so. I think this is about as good as we're going to get. This deck looks kind of cool. I mean, I haven't played a deck like this in this format before, and I rarely play them in limited as it is. It's quite difficult to put together these very tempo-y decks. I do worry that we don't have enough actual removal, but we do have, I think, 6 cards that say you can't block, plus a bunch of Skulk creatures, plus a bounce spell, plus Mr. Runaway here. And then, worst comes to worst, we have a flyer and a bunch of card advantage Madness plays to allow us to, I guess, spam out the board and dig for interaction. So, it's not awful. Yeah, let's run it out there, see how it goes. 9-7. That seems wrong. We have a lot of 2-mana plays, but 2-mana blue plays even. But they're not all necessarily things you want to play on turn 2, so I think let's go for 8 and 8 and just make sure we can do everything. Like, given if we had all of our 2-drops in hand, probably want to play the Ravenous Bloodseeker first. And if we had all of our 3-drops in hand, we want to play the Bloodmad Vampires first. So let's go for making sure we can cast those. Let's run it out there. See you in round 1.